welcome to another episode of Artco Drone Solution. Welcome. We've got a great guest, my guest, Jake Sloan, all the way from Alaska, the country or the state up over, way up there, the midnight sun. How's it going, Jake?
It's going good, although we're all melting. We've been hitting the 90s in
Yeah, that's
up
what I've
here
been
the last
hearing.
few,
Wow.
like about the last week, and nobody up here has air conditioning in their houses,
Oh,
so we're all melting and dying. We're not
uh,
we're not equipped to handle this sort of heat.
and it's high humidity, I bet too.
Yeah, I think it's 40 or 50% right now, which is
Well,
you know
it's not tropical, kind of.
it's not,
Well,
yeah, it's definitely not tropical humidity, but
wow.
it's
That
just, yeah, we're all
that.
we're all dying. Every Alaskan's going to watch a movie. They don't care what movie. They're just going to sit in the air
Yeah,
conditioning
that's
in the
right.
theater.
That's right. That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Jake Sloan. He is a droner and a photographer up in Alaska. He does tutorials and well, Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I do. I live in Alaska. I do lots of drone work up here. Lots of commercial video work and photography. Whoops, hold on one second. Sorry. There we go. Uh, so yeah, and one of the things I like to do is, when I'm out and about, seeing some of the amazing places in Alaska, is review a product or do a tutorial or talk about something that hopefully will help other people out there who are creators like me, kind of solo creators out running around by themselves trying to film things
Right?
and help them uh, learn different ways of doing things. It's I kind of feel in some ways like I'm cheating with the drone videography, because I've got such incredible, amazing scenery to film
Oh
basically
yeah.
everywhere. And so
Well, I
people
mean,
are like, you're amazing at this. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I'm that amazing at it. I just have a really lot of great things to film.
yeah, that's
So
right. I mean, you're
uh,
in the greatest place for a drone operator, a cinematographer, and I've seen some of your videos, and they knock my socks off, and I, I really like them. But what part of Alaska are you from? Are you near the Anchorage or Fairbanks area?
I'm in Anchorage, so
Okay.
south, what we call South Central. Yeah, I've been up to Fairbanks a couple of times, and I've got friends that live up there. But it's very, people think of Alaska, they're like, oh, Fairbanks the next town over, and but realize, like, going from here to going to Fairbanks is like driving from Missouri to Kentucky.
Yeah,
It's
it,
it's a big distance,
yeah,
and Alaska is a really, really big state. So
yeah, yeah.
the
It's
difference from here, South Central, to Fairbanks, is in climate and in landscape, and everything is very, very different.
right.
And the same thing going from here to the southeast, down on the Panhandle, in the near the ocean, down
Right near
on that piece
Juneau.
that goes
And,
down by
yeah.
Canada,
Hmm.
is drastically different from what we have here. It's you know it's a
Yes.
third. Alaska is a third of the U.S.
Yeah,
land
that's right.
use
That's
size.
right. And
So.
it's a beautiful state. And I bet with your drone, you could probably see Russia from
Yeah, that joke gets around.
there.
um, you probably could. If you went out there, and
Yeah, if you were up there
got out
by
there
a
on the tip and
gnome.
put a drone up high enough, you probably could see Russia. It really isn't that far.
Yeah.
And I know in many, many, many years ago, and sometimes occasionally still, that area used to freeze across completely, where people could run dog sleds across it.
Right.
It doesn't so much now, because there's a lot more shipping traffic, and there's just a lot more action, stuff
Yeah.
happening in the strait there. But yeah,
Right.
We're not that far from Russia, and every once in a while, Russia decides to run some bombers or something over
Yeah.
here near the international boundary,
Yeah.
and I live right next to Elmendorf Air Force Base, which
Oh,
is
okay.
one of the big Air Force bases in Alaska, and so they scramble F-22s and F-35s frequently to to go out and just say hello and wave. I
Yeah.
guess hopefully that's all it ever comes to. So.
To date myself a little bit, have you ever seen the movie Strategic Air Command with Jimmy Stewart?
Yes, I love
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart movies. He's great.
He, well, in the movie, they flew all the way up to Alaska, and their objective was to land at the base there, but something happened, and they ended up crash landing, and they were flying a B-36, which was the precursor before the B-52 came online.
Right.
And they were huge.
Yeah, those are big planes.
Yes, they are. So how far are you from Wasilla?
I used to live in Wasilla, actually. And so we're about 30 miles from Wasilla,
Okay.
which is, pretty close.
Say
For
hi
us
to
up
Sarah
here,
for me.
anything under an hour drive is we consider it to be basically next door.
Right,
So,
right.
because, I do a lot of video shoots in different places, and it's rare that I'm not driving at least 50 to 75 miles to go
Right.
to do a shoot for a client,
Right.
whether it's a corporate thing or a business thing or something like that. It's almost always
Uh-huh.
it's an hour of driving here, an hour of driving there.
Are you a native of Alaska?
So Alaska, out of everywhere that I've lived in the world, Alaska is the place that I've lived the most amount of time. And in total, I think I'm coming up on about 25 years.
Okay.
But before that, when I was really young, I was in northern Canada, northern Alberta,
Uh-huh.
and then after that, I was living in Nepal, country of Nepal, which is a small country
Wow.
between India and China.
Right,
And
yeah.
its big claim to fame there is half of Mount Everest
Yep.
is in Nepal, the
Mhm.
Himalayas. So I've always been around big mountains, always been a fan of big mountains.
Right. Cool.
And then,
Well, we got
yeah,
'em
so I
here
lived
in
some in
Colorado.
Washington State and a few other places in the U.S. too, but Alaska's been home for me in the U.S.
Right.
And it's by far, out of every place I've lived in the U.S., I think Alaska's been my favorite, even with some of the challenges we have of like extremely cold temperatures from time to time, or like now, extremely hot temperatures.
Yeah.
And the only way to escape it is go find a glacier and sit on it.
There you
Try and
go.
cool down.
Well, down here in Colorado where I live, we have the most 14,000 foot peaks in the
Yeah.
United States. I believe we have something like 59 of them, if I'm
That's-
not mistaken, but it's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. I know I've driven through because I lived in Missouri for a short time.
Right?
That's just smack dab in the middle of the U.S. And so,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of family in Washington State, so I drove from Missouri I-70 through Kansas over into Denver, and
Right.
man, driving through Kansas, you can see the Colorado mountains, the Rocky Mountains coming for forever.
Yeah.
It feels like
Yep.
hours and hours and hours. You're like, there's the mountains. And you don't realize, yeah, we still got 4 hours of driving till we actually get to the mountains. But I like Colorado. It's a beautiful state. I think it's probably one of the few other places that I would choose to live in the U.S. just because I got to have mountains around me.
Yeah. Mhm.
I tried doing flatland and I can't
Yeah.
do it.
Well, we got a lot of great little mountain towns like, there's Vail and Ouray and Montrose and there's so many places. You could be in North Park or South Park or out on Mesa what's the name of that place? Out by Grand Junction.
Yeah.
It's beautiful out there. But we're trying to keep people from moving to Colorado because it's getting flippin' crowded here.
I think we feel the same way here. It's just a lot less people really want to move here because if you don't like long winters, dark days in the winter and cold temperatures, this is not a good place to live.
Right, right. Colorado is the climate is just perfect. Yeah, it'll get really cold in the wintertime, but that's not for very long because in a few days we'll be back up in the 40s and the snow is gone and until the next storm comes in and we get another snowstorm or we'll get a blizzard every
Right.
now and then. Yeah.
And that, I think, as far as Alaska, at least here, if you go further in the interior, you get much, much, much more extreme temperatures, like the -70, the -80,
Right.
and stuff like that. But here, it's pretty temperate, partly because we have a lot of the ocean around us,
Right.
so it kind of helps to keep the temperature temperate. But our wintertime temperatures are very much on par with, Minnesota, Wisconsin,
Right.
Illinois. So like it's just that ours lasts a lot longer, and
Right.
that's a lot of times that's the only difference is that we just have longer winters than a lot of people do. I mean, our temperatures would probably be really similar to a lot of places in Colorado.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
we'll have instead of a week of really cold temperatures, we'll have like 3 weeks of below zero temps. And
Right.
yeah,
Well, some of the mountain towns like Fraser or Crested Butte, they'll get like -30 degrees in the wintertime
yeah,
because those towns are down in the valley and you got mountains all around you that's kind of keeping the sun away. You don't get a whole lot of
right,
sun, and that's why they're so cold.
yeah. Yeah,
So
there's, in fact, I got a friend that lives in a house out in Eagle River, which is not too far from here. And his house in the winter doesn't get any direct sunlight.
oh
And it's
boy,
just purely because across the valley from it I think it's a 5,500-foot mountain, which isn't that tall, but because the sun goes so low on the horizon in the
right,
winter,
right.
you just don't get direct
Hmm.
sunlight at his place. And yeah, it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I
So
tell people just, Alaska is big and extreme, and
yep,
everything that happens up here is extreme from every possible angle. Right now we're
right.
hitting 90s, and looks like maybe next week or in about 10 days we might get some rain, and the temperature will go from the 90s. We'll probably get down into the 40s, maybe 50, and then
Right.
it'll that's yeah,
Uh,
it's
one thing I like about Alaska is I'm a fisherman,
oh yeah,
and I bet that's just one of the places I want to go. Alaska is there are only two states I haven't been to: Alaska and Delaware. I've been to every other state but those two. But yeah, I would love to catch a huge salmon or some pike.
yeah,
Grayling would be fun,
yeah.
or go out on the ocean catch some halibut and salmon there, and what else? Oh, lingcod. They're huge, but they're good to eat.
They are really good to eat, and they're big too. You're right; they're giant. My favorite. I used to when I was younger. I used to guide bear viewing and fishing trips on the rivers up by Talkeetna, and so we did lots of king salmon fishing, lots of silver, lots of pink. But and I enjoyed that. I probably got burned out on it because I was doing it all the time.
Right?
But my favorite fish to fish for to eat is halibut. I love
Oh yeah.
halibut. It's such a fantastic fish. It's yeah, and go down. And for me, because I'm picky and I live here, I like the smaller halibut, like 100 pounds,
Right.
maybe 120 pounds, but nothing bigger than that. Because when they get over 120 pounds,
They kind of
the
get fishy and tough.
they get fishy. The meat gets weird, like kind of soft, and they get a lot of worms.
Oh, okay.
These little
Parasites.
these little
Yeah.
tiny red worms that are about that
Oh,
long, and when you cook them, they're
yeah.
done. But it
Yeah.
just the meat is not as good when they get that big. And I think it's because they live on the bottom.
Right.
We say they get rotten. They don't actually get rotten, but
Yeah.
they're not as good to eat. Even though
Remember.
it'd be kind of fun to pull in a 350 or 400 pound
Yeah.
halibut would be.
Yep.
I'm sure that would be interesting.
Red Wigglers are the Cadillac of worms.
Right.
So I got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. I got
Yeah.
to say hi to folks. Mike, aka the Drone Ranger, welcome to the show. Brett Nunley, Thomas O'Sullivan, and Dan the Drone Executioner, welcome to the show. All right. So, just a couple other things. I've got well, I have a link to a GoFundMe for Jim Crennan, so let's help him out. Rick Halber, welcome to the show. Also, I have another GoFundMe. It's to help get me to Spin Up in October. Are you going to Spin Up?
Not this year. I'd love to make it next year, but this year I've just been buried in work, which is good, but also
Right.
kind of a bummer from time to time. So, but I really would like to make it next year.
Oh, that'd be awesome to see you there. Okay, let's. Oh, Parts and Tech, welcome to the show. All right, and yeah, so I got my ticket. I just need to raise some funds so I could fly down there, get a hotel, because I'm a working stiff, and plane ticket down there is pretty pricey. And I bet it's really
Where's it
pricey.
being held?
It's down in Austin, Texas.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what a plane ticket from here would be. Probably $600 or $700, I'm guessing.
Yeah. It's probably cheaper for you to get to the Philippines than it would be to get to Austin, Texas.
It can be, and that's the crazy thing is every once in a while I've found a ticket to somewhere in Southeast Asia like for $250 or $300, which is insane. You can't even fly to Seattle for $300.
Right.
It's
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
from there you probably fly to either Beijing or Tokyo, and then it's just a 5-hour flight to Manila.
yeah,
So,
it's really not that far, and although sometimes, well, at least on a lot of the carriers now, you actually end up going from here down to Seattle or LA, and then flying from there over to Tokyo,
oh,
Beijing, or Seoul, and
right.
then into, which is kind of ridiculous because you
Yeah,
fly all the way down to LAX, and then after you've been flying for 4 hours from LA, you are
right.
flying right over Anchorage again, just at altitude, and then they fly out along the Aleutians out to. I should do it
Right.
this way so it's the right direction for everybody else who's watching. But
So, were you a nerd in school?
define nerd,
I mean, were
because
you
I
like?
definitely wasn't one of the cool kids. I didn't, I'm tall. I'm 6'4". Everybody
Oh,
wanted me to play basketball. I am terrible at basketball. I
right.
don't like team sports. I would always have much rather been out running, walking through the woods and exploring mountains or doing
Okay,
something like that
cool.
than playing team sports. And so I did that, and I read a lot when I was in
Okay.
high school, and I finished most of my high school classes just after the start of my senior year, and so then I took the rest of the time and just
Oh,
did a lot of other stuff.
awesome. Cool, cool. So, what was your first drone?
My first drone was the original Mavic Pro.
Hmm.
Um, I was just starting to get into doing video stuff with YouTube, and I was wanting to get a drone. And GoPro announced the Karma, and
Right.
because I was doing lots of hiking, I was like, "Oh, that's perfect! It's a foldable drone that'll be great for hiking and taking with me." But I knew that DJI was announcing something too. I was like, I'll wait and see what they announce." And when they announced the Mavic Pro, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm done." So I
Sure.
ordered it within the first 5 minutes of them opening orders, and then somehow, because if you remember, they how they say they built 500,000 units, but they received orders for 1,000,003 units or something like
Oh
that. So they were
boy.
way under prepared for the amount of orders they got.
Right.
I happened to get in on the first like 100,000 units that they shipped out,
Oh.
and so then I posted a few videos about it, like figuring out the iPad Mini would fit in the controller arms and
Right.
stuff like that. And yeah, that was my first drone, first thing I got into, and it's been a lot of fun
Right.
ever since. Now I'm flying the Mavic 2 Pro, which I love. It's fantastic because it's even though it's not quite on par with the Phantom 4 Pro
Right.
for video wise, it's really really close. It's close enough for everything I'm doing.
Right.
It's just fantastic.
I take it you didn't get the Zoom version.
No, and sometimes I wish I had because
Uh-huh.
like there's a video I posted about Seward where I was filming a whale,
Right.
and the they want you to keep a certain distance from
Right.
wildlife, and they don't you shouldn't harass wildlife or make them distressed or anything like that
Yeah.
for a good reason. But that was the first time I was like, oh, I wish I had a zoom because I could have zoomed in and still done the
Right.
4K image and
Yeah.
then really cropped it in to make it
Mm-hmm.
still have a full HD image, but feel like you're really, really close to it.
Right.
And but for everything else, because I do a lot of photo and video work, the Pro is better because I can get the bigger, better pictures
Right.
for the still images, which is great.
Now the whales up there, I gather they're predominantly the humpback whales. Do you get any other species of whales up
The
there? The orcas and stuff.
we get lots of orcas, we get lots of humpbacks here, and because we're in Anchorage, there's actually a lot of belugas that will come through in the
Oh,
spring and the fall, go down Turning Arm, and then if you go further north, they have the narwhals, the ones with the big
oh yeah.
long
Right.
horn, and then they also have what is it called, bowhead whales, and those are
Okay.
the bowhead whales are the ones that a lot of the native people up there actually hunt, and then
Right.
will get
Mm-hmm.
they get a certain amount every year, and then they'll divide it up between everybody, and everybody gets some of the for the winter
Right.
for
Right.
their
Huh.
food. Um, so yeah,
And
uh,
you probably got
Rick
eagles.
Rick's asking if I fly planes too. I fly in planes. I have
Ah,
flown planes.
right.
I don't have a pilot's license, but I can fly them. Yeah, because I've been around them a lot up here.
Right.
But yeah, I I'll probably get my private pilot's license here in the next few years, just because
Awesome. Awesome.
it's up here. Planes are like cars. It's just one of the ways you have to
Yeah,
go to get
that's
around
right.
anywhere.
You don't have a whole lot of roads up there.
No, we really don't. Which can be a problem in like if there's landslides or big earthquakes like we had
Right.
last November, or in the highway that goes down south from here goes through a really next to a really high mountains, and it gets avalanches covered
Right.
up frequently in the fall, or in the winter and the spring especially, and so sometimes that can be a problem if it's been a really heavy snow year. But yeah, we don't have a lot of roads.
Right.
It's pretty limited that way.
Cool. So, what kind of editing software do you use?
I use Final Cut Pro. Um, that's what I've used 7 years now, I think.
Wow.
And I really like it. It's I know I've played around with DaVinci Resolve a little bit, and that's a fantastic program.
Right.
I think the last update they did really made it a really competitive editing program for video production. Before that, it was really more of like colors and tweaking clips. And but now that they've added the nonlinear editor, it's really really fantastic. I don't like Premiere so much.
Right.
I messed with it a little bit, and I just never really been able to get into that. Before that, I used iMovie and Sony Vegas. Is that what
Yeah.
Sony's thing was called?
Hmm.
Way back when, way back when.
Well, my first editor was VSCD. I think that's what it is. Let me look real quick. Yeah, VSDC. Yeah, that's what I started like many moons ago,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
around 2010, and then when I started my YouTube channel, a little over a year ago, I got into Filmora and really like that. Sometimes it could be a pain in the butt, but uh, I'm learning new techniques and I'm getting better and better at editing and so forth. And I don't know if you noticed, I finally came up with a little subscription badge on my
Yeah.
videos. So it's that if you guys want to subscribe, I've got a badge down in the lower lower left hand corner. It's got my little logo in, yeah, somewhere down there. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the lower left-hand corner,
yeah,
or the right-hand corner if they're looking at the
yeah.
screen,
That
I
that
guess. But
is the right hand corner. God,
I always do that every time I do my videos, and I'm like, if you want to click this card up here or something like that, and I'm always pointing in the wrong direction for like two
yeah,
takes, and I have to do another one where I'm like, wait, that's not the right side. And,
right. Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm
it's
learning how to do those end card things, and those
yeah,
are
there's a lot to do, and my thought on pretty much everything like that, because there's always something better out there. There's always people always have, well, this is best at this and this is best at that, and
hmm
I think the biggest thing is taking whatever tools you have, whatever camera you have, whatever program you
right,
have, and just start using that, and then figure out how to do what you want to do in that program,
right.
and go, because a lot of times people get stuck on the looking at what's technically better than something else, and that becomes the focus of what they're doing, instead of actually getting out and creating videos and creating something. And
Right.
instead it's, well, this program, they kind of analyzing between programs all the time. And the first uh, what, 3 years I think I posted on YouTube, I was posting either using my iPhone 6,
Right.
um, or this Sony action camera, which I had for a year or two, or a GoPro. Like, I think I had a Hero 3,
Right.
and
Yeah. That's
and I
what I
just grabbed
use.
whatever I had, and I was using iMovie or DaVinci Resolve at the time to just mess with stuff and put stuff together, and it works. I think, yeah, it's easy to get sucked into the trap of trying to figure out what equipment's the best, or what's better than something else. And I think everybody has something that probably works for them better than
Right.
something else. But my philosophy is like, what, just go out and make something,
Yeah.
create something, because in the end, the story, or the story will always be what makes something good or
Hmm.
not. I mean, if you look at
It's
probably half the viral videos out there have been shot on a cell phone. They're
yeah.
shaky as all get out, and
Yeah.
they're just they're terrible from a cinematic standpoint.
Right.
But they've got a good bit of content in them, and
Right.
so that's why they went crazy. Um, or it's just a bunch of kids goofing off and doing something stupid, which is
Yeah.
probably mostly accurate there.
I don't know if you've seen any of my videos where I made a little gadget to where I could film underwater, and I was thinking, that'd be perfect for something along your lines. You got a lot of water there, and I bet if you had something like that to film the salmon going upstream, or
Yeah.
maybe out in the ocean where you might see some orcas or whatever that's
Yeah.
out there.
Well, I've got a GoPro with
Yeah,
the dome on it,
right.
so it kind of pushes the water away from the lens, so it looks
Oh,
good. Um, and
there you go.
when the salmon start running really strong, I want to go out and get some video and some
There you go.
shots of the salmon running. A lot of our streams and a lot of our rivers are really silty because they're glacier fed, and so the
Right,
glaciers are all melting really strong. It's the water is, you can't see through it
right.
at all. And then some of our ocean around us is really silty because of that reason too.
I
You
see.
go a little way away, you could definitely find some
Right.
nice clear water and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And there's some really spectacular clear mountain lakes that are way, way
Yeah,
up
that was
high.
something else I was going to say too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping to actually, I think next week, uh, I can't remember anything unless I've got it on my calendar, but I think it's next week. I'm going up to an old mine that has some really great mountain lakes and stuff around it because it's way up in the mountains, and I'm going to shoot some
Cool,
stuff up there.
cool, cool.
So,
Uh, yeah,
drone
mine is.
executioner. You want to talk about Lance? Uh,
Oh, okay. Oh, land. Yeah, because you're close to an Air Force base. You probably have to, be kind of concerned about. Gee, I wonder if it's okay if I could fly today. And with Lance, you could probably get permission. Hopefully,
yeah,
get permission to fly in certain airspace if you're not really, really close to the air base, like right up to the fence there.
yeah. Well, and like so the airspace over Anchorage is a really interesting and complicated airspace because we have the international airport,
Right?
and then right next to that, in between, is the largest seaplane airport in the world, and
Wow.
that is it's a Class E airspace, so it's not controlled like with a tower, but it is a special use controlled airspace.
Right.
And then next to that, or just behind that, is the municipal airport, which is another big controlled airspace. And then right next to that is the military base, which is controlled airspace.
Yeah.
And they all sort of like intermingle,
They
and at
overlap.
certain
Yeah.
altitudes they
Yeah.
overlap, and
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. Lance, since they rolled it out up here, it's actually worked really really well for
Oh,
most people. Now, when the FAA changed the rules in the middle of June, it
right.
really shut a lot of people down because there's a lot of people up here who are just hobbyists, and they were doing okay notifying the
Right.
airport, but then the FAA was like, "Oh, that's it." But my understanding is that the FAA is going to roll Lance out for hobbyists in the third week of July. I think around July
Good.
25th or something like that.
Yeah.
But so far the system's been working really well.
Good. 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 The other thing that's interesting about Alaska is because you have a lot of natural resources there. You've got water for hydroelectric if you were to build some dams up there, and then you have your minerals, and you've got oil and natural gas and so forth. Alaska is like kind of like Colorado was 125 years ago, because Colorado is still chock full of minerals up in the mountains, and but pretty much all the gold mines have closed here in Colorado because the price has come down so low that it's just not feasible. But yeah, Alaska, you got hard rock mining, and then you have placer mining up there on the.
Yep.
And then you can mine on
Yeah, we've
the beach in Nome.
yeah, and we've got a there's yeah Alaska's definitely a resource state, as far as the one of the major keys to the economy up here is mineral wealth, resource wealth of
Right.
oil, natural gas, and minerals. The other big one is tourism, fishing, commercial fishing
Mm-hmm.
is another big part of it. And so it's interesting because we have just vast amounts of resources that way, but to try and tap into those or to access those in any way is a huge beyond the permitting process with the federal government, which is a
Right.
big deal, and that's a huge deal. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge deal because every group that has any sort of interest in anything, whether it's streams, trees, fish,
Right.
just anything, will lobby incredibly hard against it. And so
Right.
to be able to extract any of that it's a challenge up here. And people have an idea, and I've seen it posted a lot in some of the tech blogs, that some of the places where like the oil drilling takes place is very different from what it actually is. It's
Right.
and even what they can do with oil drilling now is, what before they would have to have an area of a couple square miles to
Right.
effectively drill an oil rig. Now they can do it in an incredibly small tiny little area, and they go way down and they can drill horizontally and stuff like that. So it's
That's right. That's right.
it's you know, and a lot of people have lots and lots of mixed emotions about it.
Right.
I'm all for doing it. It can be done very safely and very responsibly, where it doesn't destroy the environment. And in some cases, like the oil pipeline that we've got up here,
Yeah, I
the
was
Valdez
going.
pipeline,
Yeah.
it's, you know, that was a huge engineering feat, for one, to even build something like that.
Right.
But there was a lot of people that lobbied against it because they said it was going to destroy the caribou herds. Well, it
Yeah.
actually had the opposite effect.
Right.
The caribou herd exploded because all of a sudden they had this warm thing
That's
to be
right.
next to all winter long, and when they're warm, that's when they mate. So
Yeah.
the
gets
caribou
them in
herd
the
really
mood.
grew rapidly after that oil pipeline went in.
It's like, hey, Betty, let's go hang over by the pipeline and
Yeah,
let's, get a little randy here and start a family. Yeah. There.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. What else? What was your first computer that you owned?
Oh, my very first computer was a Dell. What was it? A Dell. It was a Dell desktop. You
Right.
know, it probably had like a Pentium 1 processor in it, or it
Yeah.
might have even been a 486, like
What?
before the Pentium processors came out. Had
Right.
like a 2x CD drive and a
Right.
floppy disk drive. The smaller floppy disks, not the really big
Yeah. The.
ones that they
Yep.
used to have. Yeah, that was my first computer. I think was a Dell, something like that. It's, yeah, thinking back on that now, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Right.
that's crazy. I mean, you know, my phone has like 800,000 times the processing power of that first desktop I had.
Right. Well, now your cell phone has the same or more power than the Apollo 11 uh,
Yeah,
spacecraft. It's
yeah,
amazing.
and even you know, it's interesting because like we have all this technology in the palm of our hands, and
Right.
it's great. I think it's fantastic. But then I look at like the Apollo projects, or even the SR-71, a lot of these incredible feats of technology that we still look at as an amazing piece of technology. Like they were designed with rulers and pencils on paper with somebody with a hand calculator and a slide rule,
Right.
just coming up with a whole idea. It's it's pretty incredible, actually,
Yeah.
to think, you know, they designed what is still probably the fastest airplane around, with a slide ruler and a pencil, and
Yeah, that's
figured out
right.
how to launch things into space and get them back safely,
Mhm.
way before we had, you
Yeah.
know, all this technology that we have now.
Mhm.
Which makes me wonder, you know, why is it so difficult to put something back in space now? Surely all of that stuff that they had to pack into that space capsule now, like so much of that could be condensed down into a considerably smaller package, I would
Right.
think.
Well, yeah. Now, like with Elon Musk's SpaceX project, their capsule uh, carries more people and has a lot more cargo carrying space on it, which is tremendous. I don't.
Yeah.
On one of the other drone channels, they had a shuttle astronaut on the show, and he was talking about the Soyuz capsule and how Spartan it is inside the Soyuz capsule compared to the Apollo capsule.
Oh man, I can imagine. It would have. Yeah, I can imagine it would be way Spartan
Yeah.
compared.
How many siblings do you have? How big is your family?
So I've got two younger siblings, and one of them lives up here. One of them lives in the lower 48. And then
Right.
my family, I've got three kids, and
Wonderful.
all of whom are growing really fast.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
um, yeah, they
Are
keep me
are they
very busy.
interested in drones as well?
Oh yeah, they love. It's, they all like to GoPro stuff, which is the verb they use for filming anything. They
Yeah.
like to GoPro stuff, and they like to They love to fly the drone. In fact, when I had the Mavic Air, which had all the gesture control, one of
Right.
the first things I did was we went out and had them try and
Cool.
control it with their hands, which was fun. It worked really well, actually. The algorithm DJI uses for that gesture control was really great.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I have. I have a Mavic Air and a Phantom 3 Advance, and love them both. I use the Mavic Air more because it's so portable, and I can throw it in a backpack and take it with me.
Right. It is, and I mean, I love the Mavic Pro 2 or the Mavic 2 Pro, but I do miss the size of the Mavic Air. That was such a small, compact drone that was great
Right?
to throw in a bag and take with you. It made it really nice.
Yeah, that would be to your advantage because you want to carry light because you're going to be flying a lot or driving to the next gig, and you don't want to be carrying around a whole bunch of stuff. And where with the Mavic Air, you just need your filters, you need your batteries, and what else? Oh, range extender, you gotta have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've been doing a lot of water towers. A
Oh yeah.
few weeks ago, I was down in southeast Colorado and flew a couple water towers out there, and that's where I did the underwater video of the big bass that I caught one of those, by the way. So that was
Right.
awesome.
Um, yeah, we have no water towers up here to fly, but
Yeah, I bet they would
I kind of
freeze up.
yeah, and I can imagine they would be a nightmare to maintain,
Yeah,
and especially because we're a really seismically active state with lots and
yeah,
lots of
that's
earthquakes. I think in an
yeah,
average year we get about 40,000 earthquakes, and
right.
most of those are pretty small, but there's always a few decent sized shakers. And I
Hmm.
can't imagine trying to engineer a water tower to be able to have that much
Right.
weight up high and then have it move with an earthquake. I'd imagine would be quite a feat of engineering
Hmm.
uh, to make that work. But yeah,
Well,
we do have some old bridges that are really, really cool that I'd love to. There's one down by Cordova that I really would like to go film, and
cool.
because it runs between two big glaciers,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was part of the Copper River Railway.
Right.
I think that'd be a really, really cool place to go film, and there's one up north of here that I'm going to try and go up and hit this summer sometime, and it's the highest. What is it? It's the highest timber trestle bridge in North
Wow.
America, and it spans I think it's about an 800-foot gorge, and
Wow.
they take it. It's active. It's still being used by the railroad every day, and but it's pretty impressive and
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
neat. So I'm gonna go up and fly around that, get some
Hmm.
drone footage of it. Probably in the fall. I think the colors will be really great in the fall to
Oh
go hit it
yeah, I
out.
bet. Hmm. And that's one of the other obstacles, other than glaciers and mountains, is you've got a lot of timber up there. You gotta kind of be careful flying around so you don't either get stuck up there or hit one and end up in the drink somewhere, and then you're like, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I've had to climb up a tree a good 80 or 90 feet to retrieve my
oh,
drone once or
wow.
twice. Probably more than I care to admit. But it's always been with my Mavic Pro. Like I'd be circling something, going around it, and then not realize I was quite as close to that tree as I thought I was, and
Right.
then
Oh man. Well, I mean, at least you didn't, have it hit the tree and then go all the way down and then just kind of, oh, there goes that drone's
yeah.
history.
Oh,
Better better ship it off to Jeff. He'll fix it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I've been pretty lucky that way, and the times that I've come really close to getting in the water one way or another, I've always been able to save it or pull it out somehow before it actually went in the water.
Right.
And there's a lot of times where because I love it when I fly, when the drone's really really low, just skimming over the surface of something. And
Oh
but for
yeah,
some reason, they always want to go down at some point. You got to be really quick and really fast on the control to
right.
keep it up
I
above.
think it's because of that obstacle avoidance sensor. Probably it doesn't know. I don't know. Is that solid? I don't know what that is. And just go boop. There it is in the water.
Yep. Yeah, it's something to do with those bottom sensors because I've tried switching them all the way off and everything, but it always just every single time. And it happens when I'm over dirt too. It's the same thing. So it just
Right.
it's always something with drones, but they sure are fun.
Yep. Well, Jake, this is the part of the show where we just kind of relax and enjoy the art metaz. All right, that was relaxing.
Oh yeah.
I filmed that with my GoPro underwater, and all I did is I colored it, made it a little purple, and it turned out really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
I thought maybe it was computer generated.
No, it isn't. This is all natural. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I used that GoPro with that little underwater gadget, and I was watching that, and I go, "Wow, that looks kind of cool." I bet that'd make kind of my version of Razzmatazz. We'll call it Art Matazz.
Yeah, why not?
And I also want to tell folks out there that I like candy too. So if you want to send me some chocolates, send them to this address. Okay, where did I? Okay, that's the one. Yeah, send it to this address. Art Carlson, 5557 West 79th Avenue, Apartment 3, Arvada, Colorado, 80003. I like chocolates. Did I say I like chocolates? I love chocolates. All right, we're back. so,
Chocolate's good.
so, do you get a lot of Russian chocolates up there?
No,
No?
I mean you probably could, I guess, but pretty
I
much
mean,
just Hershey's and what's the one in the orange or yellow wrapper? Um,
oh,
Starts with a T, I think, right? You know, it's expensive.
oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, not Tums.
no, like well, I now have to look it up.
So, what do you do in the wintertime? I mean,
I still go out and do a lot of hiking and
right?
exploring. I just bundle up a little bit more
I bet.
and keep the drone batteries next to me so they
Yep.
stay warm while I'm out. Um, and
That's
yeah, and it's fun because going to the same places that I go during the summer, the winter, it's just a completely different experience in a completely different place.
right.
The nice thing about the winter is generally you don't have to worry about bears, so I don't have to
Yeah,
pack
that's true.
a pistol or anything.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I like going the winter. The hard part about winter is timing the light because it's so short. You have to get
Yeah,
out
that's
and
right.
you really have to go fast to get somewhere to film anything and then be done and back by the time it gets dark
Yep.
again. Now, on the other hand, the sunsets and the sunrises last forever, and so
Yeah.
it's really pretty.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a challenge. So I
Hmm.
do that, and on the work side, I still do lots of corporate video and lots of local business promo videos and stuff like that.
do you get a lot of footage of the aurora borealis?
You know, you would think I'd have a ton of it, but I haven't. And I'm going to try more this year. This last year I wanted to try, but we didn't. The timing between the aurora when it had a really good display
Right?
and having clear night at the same time
Yeah.
was just didn't. It worked out, I think, maybe once the whole winter, which is, and you know, normally at least you get like 7 or maybe 8 chances to really hit it with a good display.
Right?
Um, and But this last winter, all the really good displays, it was almost always cloudy, and so
Oh
it's like,
man.
oh, bummer. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get it this year. I want to go out and do because I want to do some more tutorials and tips on doing night photography, like long exposure photography, especially
Right.
in the winter, because it's a great time to do long exposure photography because it's dark.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try and get out and do some long exposure photography and do some video of it when I'm out
Yeah.
there, doing that, because there's a couple places that I think will be really good. There's a long winding road along the ocean that I think if I can find the right spot on the mountainside, I should be able to get the whole road winding along. And if I can time it right with the sunset and the cars, I think
Oh,
it might
cool.
make a cool picture. It might be a total bust.
Yeah, that's
So
how it is sometimes. Uh,
yeah, and like the very first time I tried night photography, I walked out. Let's see. Yeah, I walked out on across the frozen lake to Portage Glacier, and my idea was to do some night photography in front of the glacier with the star field in the background.
right?
But there was a full moon, which didn't come up above the mountains, so I didn't see it. But it was bright enough to wash out the stars, and so I
Oh
wasn't able to
man.
get any good pictures.
Yeah.
But it was still fun and terrifying being out there in absolute pitch darkness, and all you hear is the lake ice cracking and
Yeah,
popping
correct.
around you, and you can
Yep.
hear the glacier cracking and popping as it's like pushing the lake ice, and
Right. Oh boy. Yeah,
it
that
was
would be
yeah.
kind of unnerving. Yeah, just get a camera and point it at the pole star and get that circle of stars,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. Or get a picture of the mountain range and you can see the Milky Way in the background there. That'd be kind
Well,
of
so
cool,
we're too. I mean, we get a bit of the Milky Way, but
right?
because we're so far north, you never
Oh
see the
yeah, that
core of the
that's
Milky
right.
Way,
Hmm.
which is like, so I would love to come down to like Arizona or Utah or somewhere further down south and do some Milky Way specifically shots,
Right,
just because I'd love to do it. But up here, you can see kind of the edge of it, but not any of the
right.
really thick clusters, which is a bonus. But on the other hand, we do get the aurora, so that's good. It makes up for it, I guess.
Well, years ago when I've done some camping up in the mountains, boy, when the fire goes out and you can see those stars up there, they're so bright up there. You can see the Milky Way, and you can see you time it right, you can see the International Space Station go by or the space shuttle,
Nice.
which is cool. And I used to live in Michigan, and I did stand-up comedy back in you know, the late '80s and early '90s, and I got a chance to work in the upper part of the Lower Peninsula, and was had the pleasure to see the aurora up there because Michigan is so far north, and
Yeah.
that is a sight to see. So,
It's an amazing experience, and especially if you get out away from any light, any
right,
city lights and stuff like that, where you could really see it and experience it. It really is incredible. And if you when I lived further north of here, up in Talkeetna, is a really small community, and so it's really quiet, almost no light pollution at all.
right,
And if you walk out into a really quiet area and lay down, and you're just really really silent for a while, and it's quiet, you can hear it because it makes sort of a
right,
fizzing sound,
right.
almost like the sound that pop rocks make when you put them in your
Oh
mouth.
yeah,
That
kind
kind
of
of has that
crackle,
like
crackle.
crackling,
Yeah,
sort of popping
yeah,
fizzing. It's
Ah.
similar to that, but it's
Oh.
really wild. But it's amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
They're really really incredible.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, I envy you because you're in a place uh, that has such wonderful nature and oh, just wonderful stuff to see. You got your glaciers, you got your ocean, you got your wildlife. The scenery is just you're like in heaven almost when you could see all these things and you got bald eagles that are kind of like flying around you like pigeons fly around down here in Denver. They're so numerous.
That's true. You do have to be careful of the eagles because they will take down a drone,
Oh yeah.
thinking it's a bird they can eat. Like they're yeah,
Well, well,
they're
that's why you got the get the eyes from Ken Harris.
yeah. That's right. I do need to get some eyes. I need to do that
There you
to keep.
go. All you have to do is send $10 to Ken's email, and I think that goes to his uh, PayPal. And
Yeah,
yep, just tell him what size you want, chocolate or vanilla. And
yeah, exactly.
I gotta get some chocolate ones for my Phantom 3.
Is that what are you flying now? What drones do you have?
Well, I have the Phantom 3 Advance. I don't fly that whole lot because, well, it's just harder to lug around. But my favorite is the Mavic Air, and I got the red one, which is
Oh, nice.
it's the shiny one. It's the only one that has the glossy finish, the black and the white, or the
They're the
the,
matte.
the matte finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had the black one thinking that it would be easier to see against the snow. It really wasn't. I probably should have gotten the red one because that's the only thing
There
that
you go.
really stood out. But
Yeah. Uh huh.
it
And
worked good. The hard part for me in the Mavic Air was in the winter because it did okay in the cold, but it didn't do nearly as well as the Mavic Pro or the Mavic Pro 2 does. It just
right.
the way that I think the way they designed the IMU in the Mavic Air and the way they designed it in the Mavic Pro series was very different because the Mavic Pro handles much colder temperatures much easier
Right.
than the Mavic Air did. Even though I took the Mavic Air out at like 20 below and flew it around the glacier and stuff like that, it did
Boy.
okay. It was definitely a
Yeah.
little harder. And I noticed with the Mavic Air when I was flying forward, um, it would cool down the battery. The battery temperature would start dropping, which is
Oh
bad.
man.
And so I'd have to keep an eye on it. Whereas the Mavic Pro, I think it just has a little bit big, more enough mass that
Mm-hmm.
it holds its
Yeah.
temperature better in colder temperatures. So, and I know now the Mavic Pro batteries are, or at least the Enterprise batteries are like self-heating and
Oh, cool.
built for a little colder temperatures too, which is fantastic. I was so excited when they said the batteries are now rated to go down to -10 because I'm like, well, if the old ones were rated for 0, but I've been using them at -40, then the new ones are rated for -10. I should be able to go out when it's -50 or 60.
Right.
This is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not ever going to do that because it's like, even at -20, you know, you get about 10 or 15 minutes of flying it and your fingertips, everything is just
Right.
frozen cold, even with
Mm-hmm.
gloves, because it's just too cold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and uh, the interesting thing about Alaska is it used to be part of Russia, and right
Right.
after the Civil War, the Tsar, he was in a well, he got involved in a war that kind of drained his finances, and they came to Seward and said, "Hey, we got this big piece of land in North America. We kind of like to take off our hands. How about?" And then they just kind of went back and forth and came up with the price. I think it was something like $7.5 million, and
Yep.
so and the rest is history.
Yeah. And the funny thing is too, they sold it because they when they you know when they took over Alaska, They did it primarily just for the trapping. They wanted the fur, the seal
Right.
fur, the otter fur. That's, they saw
Mm.
huge potential in the fur. And when they sold it, they kind of thought that they had tapped it out, like there wasn't that much left, and it wasn't really worth keeping. And
Right.
so they sold it to the U.S. for $7.2 million or something like that. It just
Yeah.
insanely low price. And a year later, right after the gold rush had started, 2.5 tons of gold came in on one ship into the port in Seattle. It's like
Wow.
just and then of course the gold rush really got into crazy full boom and stuff
Right.
like that. It's
Mm.
yeah, it's just it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a fun place to live. It's interesting. There are times where I'm like, "Oh, it'd be kind of nice to live somewhere warmer and a little bit brighter in the wintertime."
Right.
But then again, there's just there's nowhere else I've ever been that I can literally drive an hour from my house, walk across or bike across a frozen lake and go stand or sit on a glacier or go inside of a glacier ice cave, um, you know, all
Wow.
within a day, and just for the cost of me driving to get there gas wise, it's pretty amazing. And even doing some of the other stuff where like my buddy's got a small plane and so that every now and then he and I fly out to just somewhere out in the middle of nowhere and land and just
Cool.
look around, and it's I feel like there's very few places in the world you can still do that sort of a thing, and
Right.
either one, not get in trouble from somebody, some government agency or something like that,
Right.
or just because there's just people everywhere, whereas here you can find vast
Yeah.
areas of untouched wilderness
Mm-hmm.
really easy.
Yeah. And that's the advantage. If you love fishing, they could fly you into a lake that doesn't get a whole lot of, or any pressure, into where you could catch giant trout and or salmon up there. Uh,
Yeah.
on the trout, you probably, let's see, I'm trying to guess. You get a lot of rainbow trout, right? What
Yeah, we
species?
get a fair good amount of rainbow trout, a lot of grayling and Arctic.
Are they
Was it
char?
the Arctic char? There are a lot of. There was the other fish you mentioned, and I can't think of it right now.
Oh,
The
northern
pike.
pike. Yeah,
There's some really good pike fishing up here.
cool.
But those fish specifically, you really can only go for them in the spring or in the fall,
Right.
because the rivers are clear then because the glaciers are melting and stuff like that. And then
Ah,
and then of course as soon as the salmon start running, um, it's it's hard to catch anything but salmon, just
yeah,
because
yeah.
if you can get your lure or your bait or whatever
Right.
through all of the salmon to catch
Mm-hmm.
something else, you should be looking for unicorns and probably buy a lottery ticket because you're really on
Yeah.
on a luck streak.
Oh, well,
So fall fishing is great up here because that's the water's clear, the days are nice. It's cold at night, but the days are really really nice. The colors are beautiful, and you can go out and catch a lot of grayling
right.
and trout, and yeah, it's nice that way.
So yeah, and I love pike. Pike is other than walleye, is my second favorite freshwater fish to eat. You just
Oh yeah,
gotta know how to clean them to get that little tiny bone out. So learn how to do that. So okay, who's all okay? So you're going back and forth with Dan. Oh, above and beyond drones. James, welcome to the show. Bill from Coast to Coast Drones, welcome to the show. Yeah, Bill is down there in Seattle area. Uh, had him on a couple weeks ago. A great show. So we
and I noticed you hit 700 here.
yes.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I'm inching a little closer to that 1,000 mark, and my watch time is building up, and doing this show and cranking out content and keeping that going. And I got my fishing channel, Arts Place Fishing channel,
Oh,
and
cool.
then I have a conservative talk channel called Art's Place with Lloyd Mendenhall, the grumpy vlogger, as my co-host.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like Lloyd's screen name. Lloyd, the grumpy the grumpy vlogger,
Yeah.
is a great screen name.
Yep. So yeah, that's on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So
All
what
right.
time is it there in where you are?
So right
What
now it's just after 4.
four? Okay, so you're a 2 hour difference from yeah. It's
Yeah.
just after 6 p.m. here. So cool.
Yeah. Originally, for some reason, I was thinking we were 3 hours different, and that's why I,
Yeah.
messaged you a little early because it was like,
Yeah.
oh no, it's starting, and then I was like, oh wait, now I got a whole another hour. It's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh huh. Yeah, I've let's see, I had a guest from the Philippines on early on into this channel, and that was an interesting show. His name is James Tanner of My PI Dream. So if you want to check that out, he does some drone footage. He's a guy retiring to the Philippines, and he started his channel building his home there in the Philippines. So you got
okay,
every day, you got to see the progress of the build on his house. So
that's cool.
now it's all complete. He's back at his other home in Charleston, South Carolina, and pretty soon he'll be flying back to the Philippines.
Okay,
Hmm.
nice. Well, yeah, that's interesting. It's look back now, and of course, I mean, YouTube wasn't a thing when I was younger.
Right.
I'm not even that old, but all this, it's amazing how much stuff has changed in the last 12 years.
Right.
But thinking now, like back to when I was guiding river trips and thinking, oh Lord, if there'd have been GoPros back then, all I
Oh,
had was a Canon film camera, with
right.
35 millimeter film, and it's a little hard to do movies with that. But or
Right.
I probably could have gotten one of the old Magnavox VHS cameras
Yeah.
that sat on your shoulder and tried to do videos with that. But it's hard to run away from a bear when you're lugging equipment that size
Yeah. And
around with you.
being
But I'm like, man, I could have had the most epic vlog channel ever if I'd been able to film that stuff
yeah,
back then.
you could pass the guy that's ahead. Here, carry this camera. See you. Bye bye.
Yeah,
Watch,
exactly.
watch the bear get him.
That's it. I mean, I joke about it now, but it's halfway a joke, and it's probably halfway true. In the back of my head is I always make sure I'm not the slowest person in the group.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so long as I know I can outrun somebody, I'm okay with it. And then of course, we pack some pistols, or
Of,
depending on where I am, sometimes I'll pack a shotgun too. Just
yeah,
depending on
just
the type of bear we're likely to encounter, and
right.
and where we're
Just
hiking.
kind of piss them off, and maybe they'll go away. And
Yeah, man. I've had close encounters with bears, but I know enough people that have had actual, they've been mauled by a bear or been
oh
hit by a
boy,
bear, and or have shot bears that have been like charging at them full
right?
speed. And when a bear is going at you full speed, they can get up to 55, maybe 60 miles
Yeah.
an hour, and you
Mm-hmm.
realize it's 1,000 pounds of pure muscle and anger coming at you.
Right.
And then they can start shooting at them. Well, the problem is their forehead bone here
Yeah.
is so hard and so thick that the bullet will glance off.
Right.
It'll ricochet off the bone, even from a really high powered rifle. And so a shotgun where you load a slug and birdshot and alternate slug and birdshot all the way through actually is a really effective stopping tool for a bear that's charging at you, because the birdshot will mess up
Stun 'em.
everything and get their attention, and then
Yeah.
the slug is hopefully going to actually do some damage.
Right.
But yeah, I know of one person that flew with a little air taxi I was working for at the time, and she shot the bear as it was charging her, and the bear basically finished charging all the way and then landed on top of her and died on top of her. But because
Oh,
it had so much adrenaline when it had started running at her, the adrenaline basically kept it going all the way until it jumped on her and then
right.
it died.
Oh,
But
man.
oh, that's just
Well, we've got
at that
we've
point,
got
I'm pretty
bears.
sure my heart would have stopped.
Well, we have bears here in Colorado, and people have had encounters with them. And mountain lions. We got mountain lions here, and uh, but
See, now mountain lions, because I lived in eastern Washington for a little bit, mountain lions scare me more than bears because bears, at least with grizzly bears, there are a certain set of rules that they operate by, and if you
right,
know those rules, you can pretty well predict what they're going to do if you watch their body language and then there's some I mean there's a lot that goes into it, but if you know those rules, you can predict pretty well what they're going to do. Black bears are a little more weird. They're
yeah,
just weird. Mountain lions scare me a lot because they're just a predator. Like
yeah,
bears will eat anything. They'll eat berries and mice just as
right,
fast as they'll eat fish or they'll go after a moose or whatever. Um, but mountain lions, like they're a hunting animal. They purely that's what
yep,
they do. They hunt and they're a predator, and that just is always. And they're so quiet. Like
yep,
they they always just yeah. I would not want to.
right.
Yeah,
Well, and we also have deer and elk, and now we've got some. We have moose down here, so people
really.
gotta be really careful around those animals here. Up here at Estes Park, every year there'll be a herd of elk. They'll come right through town, and they just go on their merrily way, and that's it. And everybody's told, don't mess with them, don't harass them, don't feed them, just let them go, watch,
Yeah,
take pictures, and that's it. But there's
and
always
that's the
some dummy that has to say, "Oh, look, let me pet him." Wrong move. Yeah,
yeah that's the thing up here is what as far as people and animal encounters, moose
right.
are by far the deadliest. Both because like a lot of people when they hit them with their car, it doesn't kill the moose, and so the moose will continue to try and stomp its way out of the car, which will kill
Wow.
people because
Oh
they're
no.
trapped in the car with this moose on top of it. And then moose in the winter, especially, they will attack for no reason at all. They'll just
Right.
come out of nowhere and stomp anything that moves. And yeah, so I'm telling people like, you know, bear one thing. I mean, you everybody kind of knows bears are dangerous, but like if you see a moose, just don't get out of your car
Mm.
and go running over to it. Not only that, not only are they more aggressive than people realize, but they're also much larger. At least the
Oh
ones
yeah.
here are. They're massive. Their shoulders are almost always 8 to 9 feet high, and then their heads
Right.
are above that. Because
Mm-hmm.
they're big, tall animals, and yeah, people, especially a lot of tourists, they don't realize. They think,
Yep.
oh, it's like a horse or something that's a relatively tame animal. They are not,
Yeah.
not by any stretch of the imagination are they a nice or tame animal.
Well, last night on the news they showed uh, this family. They got a house. It's up in the. They're not up in the mountains. Well, they're kind of in the foothills, and they've got a swimming pool. And there's a moose in the pool.
Oh wow,
Yeah, just taking a little dip, kind of cooling off. And they taped him. You know, he's in the pool, gets up out of the pool, kind of shakes the water off, takes a whiz on the flowers, and then he's off on his way.
well,
I
I
thought,
know up here, especially right now because it's been so hot. When people have their sprinklers out, it
oh
almost
yeah,
always a moose will come wandering into the yard and just sit down near the sprinkler and
yeah,
let
I've
the
seen
water
some of
sprinkle
those
on it.
videos where the mama will have the little guy, and the little guy is having fun playing with the sprinkler, and the mom is like going, Oh God, this feels so good. This nice cold water. Oh boy.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Well, Jake, we did over an hour on this show, and I want to thank you for coming on. I could talk forever on Alaska. It's just such a beautiful state. So keep on producing those great videos, and I'll probably see you on one of the other channels. So
Yeah, hope
thank
so.
you, thank you very much, and you have a great weekend, and I'll see you on down the road.
Sounds good, Art. Thanks a lot for having me on. Thanks everybody for hanging out here today. It's been a blast, and I hope I get to come on again sometime. Or maybe have you on my live stream, which is typically Saturday mornings, which won't be super early for you, but you know it is for me. And anyway,
Sure, that'd
so
be great.
but thanks a lot. Have a great day.
All right, take care.
You
Bye
too.
bye.